Guy moving there in a white shirt? You know who that is. That's Jim Morrison. Check this out. Here's Ray Manzarek and Jim Morrison before they had ever even talked about the Doors. Filmmakers at UCLA.
Ray Manzarek talking here. I was going to the film school at UCLA, and one of my friends in the school was Jim Morrison. And at the time, I was in a rock and roll band with my brothers called Rick and the Ravens. We do a lot of old Muddy Waters and Chicago blues and that sort of thing. And every once in a while, we'd do Gloria, Louie Louie, or something like that. And I'd invite as many guys up on stage as wanted to sing. And Jim was one of the people who invariably came up and sort of stood around and blew into a harmonica a little bit and sang in the choruses. So we graduated in June of 65, I think it was. And I saw Jim at just around graduation time and said, well, what are you going to do, man? He said, well, I'm going to New York City. About 2 months later, I was down on the beach in Venice, a beautiful California summer day. And who should come walking down the beach but Jim Morrison? And I said, hey, man, I thought you were going to New York. And he said, well, I was, but I decided to stay here. I said, well, what have you been doing? He said, well, I've been staying at a friend's house up on his rooftop writing songs. And I said, uh-huh.
And then Rick and the Ravens actually got a recording contract. Harry Klutzmeyer out of... he was in Manhattan Beach, and he was a local agent booker, and he actually got us over to World Pacific Records. Is this bizarre? Dick Bach and World Pacific Records, one of the hippest jazz labels on earth ever, the guy who recorded all of the West Coast sound, and the guy who was the recorder of Ravi Shankar. They had set up a little rock and roll division called Aura, A-U-R-A, Aura Records. Perfect, because Dick Bach was into the whole spirituality and Eastern mysticism. And we went over there and auditioned for the guy that was running the rock and roll division, and we were signed for 3 singles. They signed us for 3 singles. 2 singles for Aura Records. The very first single we recorded was a song written by somebody else this guy thought was going to be a hit. The guy who was running the little label, called Henrietta. We recorded right on 3rd Street. I mean, that was a recording studio in Los Angeles. It was on 3rd Street. Man, I mean, Chet Baker and Jerry Mulligan and Bud Shank and Shorty Rogers and all the West Coast cats were all there. I mean, Shelly Manne, all those guys. And, like, what an honor to play in a place like that. I was aware of it. Of course, nobody else in the band knew anything about any of that kind of stuff. But, man, that was where the West Coast sound came from, and it came from Dick Bach. So what happens with Dick Bach, man, is Dick and I get to talking. Dick is a spiritual, psychedelic kind of guy. We came down to the studio to see us performing or playing or recording, and he said, very nice, boys, very nice. He wasn't concerned one way or the other about the rock and roll aspect of the whole thing. He said, you guys are real good, and we got to talking about spiritual matters and about LSD. And I talked to Dick about having some LSD bummers. I had attained my state of bliss and state of oneness through the ingestion of LSD, but I had also experienced hell. And I was right in the middle of one of these bummer periods, trying to put the whole thing together, trying to figure out, why don't I have these blissful experiences like I had? Why have I been having these bummer experiences? And Dick said to me, you know what you ought to do, man? He said, because I saw the Ravi Shankar records and felt I could speak to him about this sort of thing. And he said, you ought to get involved. There's an Indian guru who is setting up a program here in Los Angeles. His name is Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. The Maharishi. He gave me a couple of records that he had made with the Maharishi, and he said, just listen to what this guy is talking about. Well, the Maharishi on the records went on and on and on and just talked, put you in a hypnotic trance just from his talking, and the guy just went on and on and on. And I said, well, to Dick, I said, after listening to him, I said, well, quite frankly, I'm not listening I'm not getting anything out of the records, but what is this mantra thing that he's talking about? And Dick said, that's what you got to do, man. He said, what you've got to do is go to this course, series of 6 lectures, and they give you a mantra. Now, what we were trying to do at the time was to attain what is called a natural high. How to stay high, like you're on LSD, without ingesting LSD. That was the whole point of it, a natural high. He said, that's what this is. This is what this is all about. And he gave me the address of where this thing was going to take place, this little course, this lecture series was going to take place. And Dorothy and I went. Now, how this impacts the Doors is, guess who else is in that course of 6 lectures at the Maharishi's Meditation Center, or at somebody's house. It was actually at somebody's house in Pacific Palisades. In that course of approximately 20 other people are John Densmore. So I went up to John and I said, listen, I hear you're a drummer. He said, yeah. I said, I'm putting a rock and roll band together. I got this buddy of mine, man. He's just a great writer, and we got some great material. I mean, I want to do poetry and rock and roll, like poetry and jazz, and I want to have it kind of like a jazz-based thing. He said, jazz? He said, are you into Coltrane? I said, Coltrane, man, I love Coltrane. He said, Elvin Jones is my idol. God, I mean, this is going to work out great. I mean, here's a guy who knows his jazz, man. But we're going to do rock and roll. He said, cool. He said, I'm not good enough to be a real jazz drummer. I said, well, hell, I'm not good enough to be a real jazz piano player. I just love the stuff. If we could incorporate that into rock and roll, I said, no one's doing that, man. My buddy Jim has got these great lyrics, man. They're very poetic, and we could do all kinds of stuff around it. He said, that sounds great. Let's get together. I said, yeah, we got to get a guitar player too, though. And he points over at Robbie. He said, well, see that guy, man? He's a guitar player. I said, what? Drummer and guitar player of the Doors. Is that weird?
Ray, I think you're the one that, when you feel like it's about ready to start, come down an octave or something. All right.
Oh, Mr. Mo.